Discover the amazing truth behind my parents' $5,000 monthly demand. My attorney brother exposed it. Jessica Thompson stared at her laptop screen, a pit forming in her stomach as the words of her parents' demand swirled in her mind. $5,000 a month? Tears threatened to spill over as she felt the starkness of reality pressing down on her shoulders. As a librarian, she barely made enough to scrape by, let alone fund the high-flying lifestyle her parents expected. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, but she felt like a stranger in her own life, trapped in a story far removed from the dusty tomes she catalogued every day in the library. She could almost hear the echo of her parents' voices, insistent and demanding, drowning out her thoughts. A sense of betrayal washed over her, leaving her breathless. Hadn't she spent her life embodying values like humility and hard work? Helping children discover the joy of reading felt sacred, yet here she was, grappling with her parents' expectancy of an extravagant lifestyle, one she had no desire to live. What were they thinking? In that moment, the warmth of her family suddenly felt cold, like the book pages she turned, dusty and forgotten. She needed answers. The pressure building within her demanded release, but fear gnawed at her resolve. What kind of child would question their parents? Yet, how could she accept their demands? The familiar ding of her phone broke her thoughts, and she glanced at the screen, contemplating a message from her brother, Ryan, the high-powered attorney. He always seemed to embody America's ideals of success, yet she knew there lay complexities beneath his polished exterior. What did Ryan have to say? She bit her lip, feeling a swell of hope. Perhaps with his insight, she could navigate this familial chaos. They met at a cozy diner, nestled on a sun-soaked corner of their quaint town. The initial comfort of familiar surroundings evaporated as she watched Ryan's warm demeanor melt into unease. "Jessica, you don't understand," he began, avoiding her gaze. "Mom and Dad have certain expectations." "Expectations?" "They want me to fund their yacht trips, Ryan." Her words clawed at the air, laced with desperation. He hesitated, shifting uncomfortably in his seat. "It's complicated. I've been caught up in their game of social status myself." A fire ignited within Jessica, twisting her emotions into knots. The very concept of loyalty had been tainted. Instead of family support, she was entangled in a web of greed and appearances. "We've built our lives on honesty, where did it all go wrong?" Before they could delve deeper, Jessica realized she was losing ground. A hasty thought raced through her mind: was their family value merely a facade? Had she to abandon her passion for books and the joy of community for the empty trappings of wealth? Inner turmoil bubbled up like a tempest ready to break free. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The conversation shifted, the light chatter of the diner swirling around them like a tempest. Jessica's heart raced, suffocating under the weight of the revelations. Brothers should support each other, but Ryan was entangled in the same toxic mindset imposed by their parents. She felt an immense obligation to safeguard their declining family values. It fueled her resolve to investigate their finances, to unearth the truth buried beneath layers of deception. What if exposing the reality of their facade would unravel not only her parents but the entire family structure? But could she risk confrontation? The stakes were mounting, and every heartbeat echoed with a gnawing dread of losing everything she held dear. Standing on the precipice of confrontation, uncertainty loomed like a shadow, tinged with doubt, ready to engulf her whole world. The question loomed larger than ever: was family loyalty worth the price of her own identity? As she prepared for the inevitable clash, she felt herself teetering between two worlds, and the emotional fallout awaited her, heavy and suffocating. Jessica left the diner with the weight of her brother's words echoing in her mind. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, she felt a sense of urgency thrumming within her. This wasn't just about money, it was about identity, family, and the very essence of who she was. Days passed in a blur of routine and reflection. Each shift at the library felt heavier, as though the shelves were collapsing under the burden of her thoughts. Not wanting to let hopelessness cloud her judgment, she began to carve out time to strategize. She mapped out her next steps, a plan that teetered on the edge of confrontation and self-discovery. The idea of diving into her parents' finances felt uncharted and perilous, but so did capitulating to their demands. With each hour spent in the safety of books, she started to uncover a resilience that had long lain dormant. Distancing herself from the expectations set by her parents and even her brother, she took solace in passages about self-advocacy and empowerment. Words became her armor, and slowly, threads of a new narrative began to weave themselves into her daily existence. One particularly quiet afternoon, she stumbled upon a book about personal finance and the psychology of wealth. It ignited a fire in her, opening an avenue she had previously overlooked. If her parents wanted money, perhaps understanding their motivations would help dismantle their hold over her. She jotted notes, her mind racing as the pieces fell into place. The concept of money had always been represented as a lifeline, but perhaps it was time to reformulate that belief and view it through a different lens. Jessica decided to reach out to her parents. The prospect filled her with dread but also with a newfound sense of purpose. If she could muster the courage to confront them about their financial situation, it could embody a self-empowerment that had been buried beneath layers of familial obligation and expectation. Her palms grew sweaty as she typed out an email, her heart pounding with each word. She positioned her inquiries carefully, mixing concern with a dash of bluntness. I need to understand where all these demands stem from. Can we talk about the financial strategies at play? There is something deeper happening beneath the surface that we need to address. But confronting them wouldn't only mean unveiling fiscal truths, it would also lay bare her fears and her feelings of betrayal. Sinking into that discomfort, she waded through memories of family gatherings overshadowed by their relentless pursuit of status. The more she delved into those reflections, the more resolute she became. In the days that followed, a binary clash loomed: either Jessica could maintain her role as the dutiful daughter or she could rise against the tide of expectation. Her inner fight mirrored a fierce storm, building up momentum without an outlet. That evening, she decided to take a calculated risk: she'd meet them in person. As she prepared for dinner at their house, she paced the floor, imagining how the conversation might unfold. Would her parents respond with defensiveness? Would she find enough strength to stand her ground? The tension coiled tighter with each frantic thought. But then a flicker of clarity emerged. This was a defining moment. With each breath, she recited affirmations of self-worth she had encountered in her readings. She was a librarian, a person dedicated to understanding and sharing knowledge, not a puppet to their whims. They would need to answer her questions. She would speak up for herself, and whatever the outcome, she would take the next step into her own narrative. As she rang the doorbell, an unexpected surge of determination surged through her body, a visceral conviction that she would break the cycle, no matter the fallout. The moment of truth hinged on the threshold. Jessica could almost taste the sweet anticipation of liberation or the bitter tang of confrontation. With every passing second, she realized, her life would never be the same again. The stakes were higher than ever, and she was ready to face whatever lay beyond that door. The door swung open, revealing her parents in the living room, their expressions models of curiosity mixed with a hint of irritation. Jessica's heart pounded as she stepped inside, each footfall echoing her unfiltered thoughts. This was not just a conversation, it was a battle for her agency and self-worth. Glad you could make it, her mother said, barely hiding her discomfort as she ushered Jessica to the dining table laid out with their usual perfection. Dim lighting and elegant place settings felt like a facade now, concealing the cracks she was determined to explore. Jessica forced a smile, her stomach in knots as she took a seat. Thanks for having me. I wanted to talk about something important, Jessica began, the tremor in her voice betraying her composed facade. She folded her hands tightly in her lap, refusing to let the apprehension show. Her father's brow furrowed. Is this about you not accepting our financial support? It's not just about money, you know. His tone was defensive, warning of the storm to come. It's about understanding, Jessica replied, her voice steadying. You've made some choices based on financial needs, but they're entwined with family dynamics that I don't think we've addressed. I need to know why the demands feel so insurmountable. A pause hung in the air, thick with unspoken truths. Her mother's eyes narrowed as she clutched her fork, while her father leaned back, crossing his arms defensively. The walls around Jessica felt almost suffocating. She was no longer the dutiful daughter but a challenger demanding transparency. I think we've done what's necessary to provide for the family, her father countered. You've always had what you needed. Have I? The question tumbled out, sharper than she intended. The room grew tense, thick with the weight of her words. What if I don't want that kind of future? What if my happiness requires breaking away from expectations? Her mother's face blanched, while her father looked to the wall as if seeking counsel from the decor. Silences in familial settings often screamed louder than any argument, and each second dripped with tension. Deep within, a surge of defiance rose to meet her parents' resistance. Surges of resentment and longing fought for space in her chest. This wasn't merely about uncovering the truth, it was about her very existence and the narrative spun around her. You both taught us that financial stability is paramount, but it came at a cost to our relationships, didn't it? Her voice now had an edge, slicing through the haze of expectation and obligation. I want to know about your sacrifices, why you feel pressure to maintain this lifestyle. I can't bear to carry the weight of secrets anymore. Anger flickered in her father's eyes, his emotions simmering just beneath the surface. You're being naive, Jessica. This world hinges on financial security. You're just not ready to understand it yet. And that's where you're wrong, she shot back, her pulse racing with conviction. The implications of her parents' expectations loomed like shadows. It's not about naivety, it's about redefining what security means. I want to have this discussion, but I can't do it without your honesty. But would they yield? The answer hung in the charged air, suffused with fear and the possibility of breakthrough. Was she ready to confront whatever truths awaited her? Each heartbeat was a reminder of the stakes at hand. In that moment, as they locked eyes, Jessica felt something shift deep within her, a reclamation of her voice, her power. The dinner table felt less like a battleground and more like a platform for transformation. The conversation was only beginning, and behind her parents' defenses lay answers she desperately sought. But would their shields weaken under her earnest insistence? As she braced for their response, she realized she was no longer the child tethered to their demands but a woman ready to forge her own path. The door to understanding had been flung wide open. But would they step through it? Jessica's heart raced as she prepared for the looming confrontation. In the charged silence, her mother was the first to break the spell. We didn't want this for you, Jess, she said, her voice strained, yet piercingly honest. We sacrificed everything for your future, believing this path would ensure your success. Success? Jessica echoed, incredulity washing over her. The radical difference in perspective felt like a chasm. You equate success with money and stability, but what about personal fulfillment? What about the happiness I crave beyond this expectation-laden life? Her father's brows knitted tighter, his irritation turning to defensiveness, yet she sensed something, perhaps fear, perhaps regret lurking beneath his demeanor. You will thank us later, once you understand the real-world implications of your choices, he stated, but his voice lacked the conviction it often held. This emboldened Jessica to press on. You're right, she said. I might not fully comprehend yet. But I do comprehend how you've shaped my view of the world. You equated love with financial security. I need you to see that I'm not rejecting your love, I'm just redefining it. Her father shifted in his seat, discomfort rising like bile in his throat. Jessica seized the moment. What about your sacrifices? Why did you refuse to discuss your struggles, your fears? I've spent years wondering why love felt transactional. Silence enveloped the room again, each participant ruminating on the painful truths laid bare. The familiar luxury of their dining room seemed to fade into the background as Jessica's voice filled the space with unyielding clarity. She wasn't a victim of their expectations anymore, she was a woman ready to claim her narrative. Her mother's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, and in that moment of vulnerability, Jessica felt an unexpected pang of empathy. "You did what you thought was best, Mom. But I need to understand why you felt the need to impose these ideals on me." Her mother withdrew slightly, the emotional armor crumbling for a brief moment. "We faced challenges that shaped our view of stability. I always feared failure, losing what we worked so hard to build. I thought a solid foundation for you and your brother would mean happiness. Instead, it's suffocating," Jessica offered gently. "Can't you see that? I want to create my own legacy based on truth, passion, and dreams, not just practicalities." As Jessica outlined her vision for a life driven by authenticity, she began noticing shifts in her parents. The shadows beneath their eyes hinted at long-buried fears while their body language's tension ebbed away like receding tides. Perhaps they, too, yearned for liberation from that financial-induced armor. "Jess, we want you to be happy," her father finally admitted, the vulnerability in his voice stirring something deep within her. "But we just want to ensure you can stand on your own 2 feet first." What began as a simple conversation escalated into an exploration of emotional transparency, yet Jessica felt another layer ready to be peeled back. Questions swirled in her mind. Her brother's recent choices loomed large. "And what about Robert? He seems to navigate this world with more freedom than I ever imagined, yet I sense there's more beneath his surface as well." Her parents exchanged a charged glance, one that echoed unspoken truths. "He has made decisions we didn't agree with," her mother said, a touch of conflict twisting her features. "He has taken some risks we never envisioned for you." "Risks?" Jessica leaned in, her curiosity ignited. "Is that what it is?" Instantly, the atmosphere shifted. Their guardedness returned, but a new flavor of tension saturating the air hinted at secrets, revelations waiting on the edge of discovery. The opposite of that facade Jessica had fought against seemed to pulse with urgency. Their words could be the key to unlocking deeper familial dynamics that had long remained hidden. So many layers yet to uncover, and Jessica could feel the ground shifting beneath her feet. As she prepared to launch into another line of questioning, she couldn't shake the sensation that their next revelation held the key not just to understanding why her brother had strayed but to grasping the deeper complexities of their family bonds. "Mom, Dad," she pressed on, "what if Robert's choices aren't just risk-taking? What if they're part of a bigger story, one that you shared with him but not with me?" She fought to keep her breath steady as the air stilled around them, waiting for the answers that would shape the very essence of her family's legacy. Could it be that the truth about Robert held echoes of her own rebellion yet to be realized? In that moment, she felt a primal pull to embrace whatever revelation awaited her. Because tonight wasn't merely about acquiring answers. This was about unlocking every untold story, every unspoken fear, and every buried truth, both her own and that of the family she loved deeply yet felt alienated from. How far was she willing to go to unearth those truths, especially if they meant questioning not just her parents' choices, but those of her own brother? Jessica's pulse quickened as she scanned her parents' faces, a mixture of anticipation and dread coursing through her veins. The air felt electric, taut with unsaid words that could shatter or mend their already fragile familial bond. Her parents, once pillars of certainty in her life, now seemed like the characters from a book she'd been reading, enigmatic and layered, waiting to be understood. "Please, just tell me what's going on with Robert," she urged, her voice barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of her growing determination. How could she forge her own identity when there were shadows looming from within her own home? "Why does he seem more liberated than we do? Why are you so afraid for me to make similar choices?" Her father's jaw tightened at the mention of her brother's name, while her mother's gaze drifted to the floor, the flickering candlelight casting a soft glow on their troubled faces. Jessica watched them closely, searching for any flicker of truth, any sign that they would finally share those secrets that felt so crucial to her understanding. "He's living a different life than you are, Jess," her mother finally spoke, her voice strained but soft. "He took a path that, well, it doesn't follow the blueprint we thought would keep him safe. He has done things that we don't. Her words faltered, and Jessica leaned in, battling the urge to retreat. Things that you don't approve of? Jessica asked, seeking clarity. Or things you simply don't understand? I want to bridge this gap. The more I learn about Robert, the more I feel like there's something in his choices that resonate with me. Something that makes me realize I'm not the only one feeling trapped. Her father shifted again, visibly agitated. Your brother has his reasons, but they come from a place of risk. We didn't want that for you. You have opportunities, Jess. Opportunities that he may have burned to the ground attempting to find himself. Jessica's heart sank. Opportunity felt like a double-edged sword, cutting through her individuality with its razor-sharp edges. But haven't you seen that opportunities aren't always the same? Sometimes they are a facade that keep you in line. Maybe all Robert is searching for is a chance to be authentic, a chance that I crave too. Don't you want me to pursue my own path without fear? As the shadows deepened, her father's resolve wavered, and the painful silence hung, a haunting reminder of how long the family had cloaked their struggles. Jessica saw it then, the cracks in their defenses. Each eye contact and shared breath became a spark that could ignite a fire of honesty. Your brother chose to delve into areas of life we couldn't guide him through art, music, and experiences that deviate from the path we carved for you too, her mother finally revealed, a trace of sadness evident in her tone. He wanted to experience life without caution, and he embraced risks we cannot comprehend. Jessica was struck by the revelation. Why not embrace that freedom too? Why is uncertainty a threat rather than a teacher? She felt resolute now. In the face of their fear, she stood firm, ready to advocate not just for herself but for understanding the divergences that had shaped their family narrative. What if there is more to Robert's choices? What if his rebellion speaks to the suppressed parts of ourselves you both fear to acknowledge? Boldly, she interjected, testing the waters of what had been untouchable. I don't want to live a life dictated by avoided pain, by the fear of experiencing something different. Her parents' expressions morphed into a blend of confusion and contemplation, as if her words had shattered their expectations yet offered a path forward. Perhaps their individual battles with vulnerability could restore the trust that had long been obscured under layers of their financial ambitions. Jessica felt the dawning realization that uncovering her brother's truth could provide the missing pieces to her own awakening. The thought tasted bittersweet, urging her forward. The journey into the unknown now felt not just necessary but inevitable. Whatever it takes, I want to know Robert's story, Jessica affirmed. And once I do, I'll face the consequence of embracing whatever that truth means for me. The air in the room transformed, becoming a canvas upon which Jessica was determined to paint her own destiny. She recognized this was not merely a matter of family dynamics but the first brave step toward excavating her identity from the depths of expectation. What truths would Robert's story reveal, and would they force her to redefine not just herself but how she viewed her family? With resolve swelling within her, Jessica braced for the journey ahead, feeling fortified by a new sense of purpose. Maybe it's not just Robert's choices I need to understand but my own. What happens when it's my turn to take risks? With that thought, she resolved to confront the echoes of her brother's life, ready to step into the unknown realms of rebellion and revelation. Would she uncover a secret that might ultimately shatter or set her free? The following morning, Jessica awoke with a sense of clarity over her purpose. She gazed at the ceiling for a long moment, tracking the patterns cast by the morning light filtering through the curtains. It was a new day, but the air still felt thick with uncertainty, not just about Robert, but about her own identity. More than ever, she felt the weight of her parents' expectations pressing down, a relentless echo of their fears wrapped in words of caution. Determined, she prepared to meet her brother in the city. The city was alive with possibilities, pulsing with energy that resonated with her new resolve. As she rode the train, her heart raced, thoughts spiraling into questions. What had Robert discovered about himself? What truths lay hidden beneath his reckless choices that could illuminate her own path? With every stop the train made, she felt herself drawing closer not only to her brother but to the essence of her own liberation. Arriving at the art studio where Robert had begun to make a name for himself, she felt both excitement and trepidation. The building was an old warehouse, the exterior rough and aging, but inside it buzzed with creativity. Artists were splattered with paint, deep in conversations about their current projects. Jessica's heart raced. She had never thought of herself as an artist, yet the vibrancy of the space stirred something inside her. Jessica. Robert's voice broke through her thoughts as he emerged from the crowd, his presence warm and informal, dressed in a paint-stained t-shirt. He embraced her swiftly, the familiarity igniting a flicker of comfort amid her anxiety. "Hey. I'm glad to see you," she replied, her nervousness quickly melting into genuine warmth. "He's changed," she noted, noticing the slight shift in his demeanor. The comfort he exuded in this environment was striking. "Can we talk?" "Absolutely," he replied with an inviting smile, leading her away from the bustling crowd. They settled in a quieter corner filled with eclectic art pieces that Robert himself had created. Each piece was an explosion of color, a stark portrayal of emotions she couldn't quite place but instinctively understood. Once seated across from him, Jessica took a moment to gather her thoughts. "I want to understand your journey, Robert. Mom and Dad are so worried about me following in your footsteps. But I don't think their fears are grounded in who you are. They just don't see what you've seen." She tipped her head, allowing herself to be vulnerable. "I want to challenge their narratives, but I need your help." Robert's expression shifted from casual concern to genuine interest. "You're feeling boxed in, aren't you?" He didn't wait for her to respond, but she saw the understanding in his eyes. "I felt that way too, Jess. I took every chance to escape the perfect little life they wanted for me. It wasn't easy, but I discovered something crucial along the way. It's never about rebelling for the sake of rebellion. It's about finding your voice." Jessica nodded. "And what if they're right? What if chasing freedom is just a fast track to nowhere? Then at least you'll know. And believe me, it's better to know than always wonder what if. You have a voice, Jess. Art doesn't have to be paint or canvas. It's about expressing the truth of who you are. You could do something with that." His intensity sparked something alive in her, challenging her conclusion of fear with a glimmer of motivation. The exchange deepened as they explored his experiences: intense failures, emotional breakdowns, exhilarating triumphs, and she began to see pieces of herself in his journey. Each story was a brushstroke painting the complexities of personal exploration. Her defenses started to lower as his triumphs illuminated paths she had never dared to envision. "What if I could explore this?" she questioned hesitantly. A thought her parents would deem ridiculous, but one that stirred her adrenaline. "Not just art, but all of this, finding who I am through my own lens?" "Exactly." Robert leaned in closer, the intensity of his gaze urging her forward. "Take risks. Make mistakes and learn from them. You might discover not only who you are but what you want to fight for." Jessica's heart swelled as the prospect of authenticity unfurled before her. She could sense the shift in her life unfolding, but it pushed against the boundaries of her past, a past encapsulated by her parents' protective embrace. "Let us do it," she proclaimed, adrenaline rushing through her, matching the rhythm of the city around them. But as soon as the words left her mouth, a tremor of doubt gripped her. Would she really follow through? Would her family be able to accept that she might not follow the path they envisioned? In that moment, the reality of her choice became palpable, fusing excitement with anxiety. Tomorrow was not the day of reckoning for her family, it was today. Robert's smile was infectious, yet beneath it lay the unspoken questions of their family dynamic. What would happen when her parents learned about the risks she was willing to take? She knew she had just taken a step into a dark yet illuminating cavern of uncertainty. The adventure ahead could either empower her or drive further wedges in her family's already uneven foundation. Jessica's heart raced with anticipation and trepidation. One thing was certain: she was no longer simply searching for answers, she was ready to embrace the journey of self-discovery. And as they chatted amidst the clang of creativity and expression, she thought of her parents' apprehensions. Could the truth of her own voice become a catalyst for reconciliation? She didn't know the answer, but she could feel the fervor igniting within her, beckoning her to take the leap. What other truths lay in the shadows, waiting to be revealed? And how far would she go to pursue them? With seeds of newfound determination sown within her, Jessica prepared to step deeper into the unknown. Could she unveil her own authenticity without losing her family along the way? Jessica's exhilaration from her conversation with Robert morphed into a storm of thoughts as she departed the art studio. The city buzzed around her, a chaotic symphony drowning out her inner turmoil. She walked the streets, each step closer to her apartment intensifying her resolve yet amplifying her doubt. Her parents had built a world that felt both comforting and suffocating, like a warm blanket that gradually constricted. Could she really unravel that fabric? The potential freedom was intoxicating, yet apprehension loomed. How could she express her burgeoning identity without unraveling the familial bonds that defined her? Reaching her apartment, she slumped onto the couch, grappling with the duality of her thoughts and emotions. On the one hand, Robert's journey breathed life into her dormant aspirations. His emphasis on pursuing authenticity ignited a spark within her, a yearning to explore uncharted creative territory. But could she muster the courage to confront the apprehension that brewed within her family? Sifting through her sketches, doodles from her childhood, remnants of a forgotten identity, she pondered. Each image stood vigil to unexpressed desires, the conduit to emotions uncharted. It was time, she realized, to channel those buried thoughts into something tangible, art perhaps, but also words. With purpose, she retrieved a journal from her shelf and began to write. The ink flowed freely, her mind catching up to her heart. The blank pages transformed into a safe space where she could voice her fears, aspirations, and uncertainties without judgment. The act of writing became a cathartic release, each word threading together the fragments of her inner world. On one page, she explored the fear of disappointing her parents. She articulated what their expectations felt like, a weight too heavy for her fragile dreams. On another, she described her conversations with Robert, the thrill of seeing a sibling break free from the conventional path, which emboldened her to consider her own rebellion. Suddenly, a flash of an idea struck her. What if she showcased this journey through art, a visual narrative that embodied her struggle, her search for self? Jessica envisioned a series of portraits, each piece revealing a layer of her identity just waiting to be unveiled. Her heart raced at the thought, a combination of excitement and overwhelming fear colliding within her. But who would she share it with? The question haunted her as she turned another page. If she unveiled this personal project to the world, would her family see it as a defiance of their hopes? Would they understand or react with disappointment? Doubt crept back with a testing whisper, casting shadows over her vibrant vision. Each risk carried the possibility of alienation and heartbreak. Understanding that there wouldn't always be clarity made her anxious, yet she vehemently shook off the uncertainty. This was about more than just her family, it was about her own growth. She wouldn't remain trapped in the confines of someone else's expectations. That night, she dreamt vividly. Images of her future self emerged through colors, vivid landscapes, and boundless horizons. There she was, painting with fierce determination, unafraid. When she awoke, the dream felt prophetic, giving her purpose rather than fear. The next few days were filled with creation. Jessica immersed herself in sketching and painting, transforming her emotions into visible entities. Each piece symbolized a part of her essence, her doubts, her dreams, and most importantly, the narrative she had yet to share with her parents. But just as she felt poised to leap into authenticity, an unavoidable confrontation loomed. Robert casually mentioned their parents' concern for her while they were together one afternoon, a tiny spark igniting her fears anew. "Their worry doesn't define you, Jess," he had said. But even his reassurance wavered in the storm of her uncertainty as she considered how to approach them. As the weekend approached, Jessica stood at a crossroads. With her art slowly materializing, her breaths deepened with both anticipation and dread. What would happen when she finally unveiled her authentic self to her family? Would they embrace her transformation, or would it become a moment of painful divergence? Her heart pounded in her chest as she rehearsed her words, but even in her mind, they felt inadequate. Was she seeking freedom or just a way forward through the entangled roots binding her? And as the city lights twinkled beyond her window, she sensed that liberation came hand in hand with confrontation. Now, she faced the question, could she articulate a world where her new identity was celebrated instead of criticized? With these thoughts swirling, a firm resolve took hold. It was time to prepare for a confrontation that would determine her path, and the narrative she controlled the dialogue about identity, freedom, and familial ties was about to unfold. The moment of truth was near, and in its approach echoed the haunting echo of authenticity. Would she prevail in her quest for true self-expression, or would the fear of rejection hold her captive? Jessica stood in front of her easel, the soft morning light illuminating her latest work, an abstract piece bursting with emotion, each brushstroke a representation of an untamed part of herself. But today, the colors felt muted, the once pleasurable act of painting overshadowed by the impending conversation she knew she had to have with her parents. The weight of their expectations loomed in her mind, like a dense fog refusing to lift. As she dipped her brush into the vibrant hues, memories began flooding back: her mother's smile when she brought home a report card filled with A's, her father's proud nods during family gatherings. They had always celebrated success, but in their world, success had specific guidelines, well-charted paths that Jessica felt increasingly inclined to challenge. The realization struck her with a jolt: she was not merely rebelling, she was reclaiming. Yet, the thought of unraveling this familial fabric twisted her stomach in knots. She needed to confront her parents, but how? What words could encapsulate her dreams and justify her choices without causing them unbearable hurt? In her mind, she visualized the scene, sitting across from her parents, each awaiting her words with hopeful expectation. She shuddered at the thought of their disappointment, an emotion she had come to fear deeply. Could she muster the courage to reveal this vibrant part of herself they had never known? Leaving her canvas for a moment, she wandered to her small kitchen, attempting to ground herself with the mundane. Preparing a cup of tea felt ritualistic, infusing the air with calming aromas. As the kettle simmered, she considered the importance of preparation. This conversation required a strategy, a balance of honesty and sensitivity. Perhaps she would share her artwork first, a visual representation of who she was becoming. It might allow them to peer into her soul before she had to articulate it in words. With tea in hand, she returned to her workspace, pondering the portraits she envisioned creating. Each piece would be like a chapter in a story, a journey through her self-discovery laced with vulnerability. The brush in her hand felt like a tool of liberation, one that could breach barriers and build bridges. But each stroke also prompted self-reflection: what if her art was not enough? What if they rejected her deeper self, the one hidden behind the well-loved frames of acceptable dreams? Jessica turned back to her easel and began painting with renewed fervor. Each swipe of color infused her vision with determination. She poured herself into the canvas, pouring out the weight of expectations, her excitement coursing through each movement. What if the fear of unacceptance was holding her back more than her actual family? Deep down, she sensed that the only one who truly needed to embrace changes was herself. As shadows lengthened and dusk crept into her apartment, her thoughts continued to swirl. The idea of revealing her project to her family clung to her like a second skin. Eventually, she resolved to talk to them that Saturday, setting a firm date: no more procrastination. In contemplating what lay ahead, she recalled Robert's words: "The essence of who you are must not be sacrificed at the altar of fear." With a sense of purpose, she returned to her artwork, the vibrant colors splashing across the canvas now mirroring her growing determination. Never had she felt this close to a breakthrough. But the nagging voice inside her reminded her of the risks involved. What if the truth shattered what little security she had? That night, her dreams swirled with images, a mixture of vivid creativity and the cruel flicker of doubt. Her parents' faces danced before her, smiling, indifferent, concerned, each outpouring an opportunity for acceptance or anguish. Morning arrived with a heavy heart, and as she gazed at her latest piece, a fierce resolve rippled through her. The moment was upon her: she would show them her art first, then speak of her journey. She clenched her hands, battling the fear swirling in her chest. "Today is the day," she whispered to herself, channeling all her courage into that phrase. But as she exited her apartment, her pulse quickened, not from the excitement she hoped to feel, but from a potent mix of urgency and dread. What would her family's reaction be? Would it be a moment of discovery or disillusionment? As she navigated the streets toward their home, the tension felt palpable, each step resonating with possible outcomes. And as she approached their front door, a new thought hit her. What if, rather than a confrontation, this became an opportunity for connection? Could this be the moment they'd understand her, truly understand her? With these thoughts swirling, she steeled herself for the revelations that awaited. Would authenticity lead her to freedom, or would the strings of family ties ensnare her dreams? The air felt thick with anticipation as Jessica stood on the threshold of her parents' home. Each breath she took was a battle against the whirlwind of emotions churning within her. Would they welcome her truth, or would it become a source of contention that would fracture their already delicate relationship? She clenched her fists to steady herself, reminded of the purpose behind her visit. Today wasn't just about confronting her parents, it was about carving out her own space in a world built around their dreams. As she crossed the familiar threshold, memories flooded her mind, holiday gatherings filled with laughter, the warmth of her mother's embrace, and the discussions that always circled back to expectations. She fought against the nostalgia that threatened to weaken her resolve. Today was different. She was not a child seeking validation but an artist ready to embrace her identity. Sitting in their warm living room, a space adorned with family photos and treasures from their collective past, felt simultaneously comforting and suffocating. Her parents looked up, eyes bright with the anticipation of their daughter's visit. It caught in her throat, a lump of indecision. "Jess, it's so nice to see you," her mother exclaimed, her voice a soothing melody that brushed against the chaos within. "Hey, Mom, Dad." Jessica smiled, but the warmth didn't penetrate the cool reservoir of anxiety pooling in her stomach. For a moment, they exchanged pleasantries, each word reinforcing the facade of normality. As her mother inquired about her latest projects, Jessica felt the tug-of-war inside her, the urge to retreat into the comfort of their expectations while simultaneously longing to break free. "I've got something to show you," she blurted out, her voice quaking with the anxiety of revelation. Without waiting for a reply, she retrieved her portfolio from her tote bag. Her hand trembled as she laid it out on the coffee table, the vibrant colors reflecting the internal battle that raged within her. Confusion flickered across her father's face, and her mother's smile faltered. "What is this?" "In this, you'll see who I am, who I've been becoming." Each piece she revealed felt like peeling away layers of herself, a deeply vulnerable act that opened her heart to the possibility of acceptance or rejection. With every painting she laid before them, Jessica described her journey, her struggle to honor her true self amid their expectations, and the creative impulses that drove her to paint. As she spoke, she watched their expressions shift, skepticism mingled with curiosity. Her father's brow furrowed deeper. "But Jess, is this really a feasible career? You have so much potential, so many opportunities, and Dad, it's not about potential anymore. It's about passion." The words slipped from her mouth, emboldened by the fear that their approval might not come. "I want to turn art into my life, not just something I do on the side. I need you to understand that." A silence settled over the room. She could see them processing her statements, the weight of their unspoken words hung heavily in the air, a tangible tension wrapping around them. What she had hoped would be a moment of connection teetered dangerously close to conflict. "I just want you to be happy, Jess," her mother finally said, her voice cracking. "You're so talented, a job in a gallery could lead to so much more. What if I don't want that more? What if I want to define success on my own terms?" Each voice escalated, reverberating off the walls and into the recesses of Jessica's heart. Their debate felt like a battle not merely for her career but for the future of their relationship. She recognized that in their raised voices lay the very essence of their love, their desire to protect her. As the evening wore on, Jessica fought for her independence while grappling with the painful truth. Relinquishing their ideals also meant risking a part of her familial connection. They wished to explore possibilities that, to them, looked like safety, achievement, and love, while she sought authenticity, expression, and liberation. Defiant, she lingered in the tension, refusing to abandon her path, but the fear of breaking their bond sent chills down her spine. There, in that moment, she faced a harsh realization: being true to herself would involve navigating this delicate line between family hope and personal truth. As the shadows lengthened in the room, Jessica wondered, how far would she go to protect her journey without extinguishing their love? And could she bridge the chasm that now lay between their worlds? With uncertainty swirling, she steeled herself for the next step. Would they find common ground, or was this ultimately a departure into the unknown? The night felt laden with unspoken understandings as she realized the conversation had only just begun. The air in the room was charged with unspoken truths as Jessica's heart raced. The confrontation she had anticipated had unfolded like a delicate dance, teetering between hope and despair. Yet, beneath the surface tension lay a transformative realization: this was not merely a battle, but the beginning of dialogue she had longed for. As Jessica watched her parents struggle with her decision to embrace art, she recalled the countless hours spent lost in her own world of creativity. The warmth of her brush gliding across the canvas had offered her solace. It was time they understood that choosing to reject their expectations was not an act of rebellion but a pursuit of authenticity, a journey she needed to embark upon to find herself. "I know this is difficult for you," she said softly, her voice steadying as vulnerability washed over her. "But I need you to trust that me pursuing art doesn't mean I'll fail. It means I'm stepping into my own light." For a moment, the silence seemed to swallow her words, creating a cocoon of contemplation. Her mother's brows knitted together, concern intermingled with confusion. "It's just Jessica, we thought we were providing you with security, a stable future." "Security at the cost of my happiness isn't security at all," Jessica interjected, her voice steady yet calming. "You've always told me success is built on dreams coming to life, but at what point does that become just a safe cage for a bird that doesn't fly?" She let the weight of her words linger in the air. In her parents' eyes, she saw a flicker of acknowledgement. Each piece of her artwork had been a reflection of not just the joy intertwined with her artistic expression but the struggle to reclaim her identity from the shadows of their expectations. "I'm asking you to support this journey, to believe in what I'm creating, not just the safety of what you envision," Jessica continued, her heart pounding with resoluteness. "I want to explore those parts of me that have long been tucked away. I owe it to myself to do this, whatever it takes." Her father shifted in his seat, absorbing the weight of her words. "You're not the only one afraid, Jessica," he admitted, a tremor escaping his voice. "We've always wanted the best for you, and we thought this was it. But have you ever paused to ask if that's what I wanted?" The moment felt raw, yet necessary, a crossroad bursting with potential for new understanding. "What happens when I venture into a world where my passion flourishes? You might just discover that it's more valuable than any financial security." Jessica's mother inhaled deeply, her features softening. "But it scares me. Scares us both." "Fear can lead to growth," Jessica said gently, her eyes welling with unshed emotions. "By confronting my fears, maybe it will open paths to understanding we never thought possible between us." A shift began to settle in the room. The growing realization that honesty had transformed their family narrative, despite danger and discomfort, gave Jessica surprising courage. Each layer she bared was a revelation not merely to them, but to herself. "What if we could all redefine success together?" she proposed, emboldened by the shift in dialogue. "What if you shared your struggles, your own fears about success and what it means? Maybe together, we can build a new narrative." Her parents exchanged glances, a silent conversation unfolding between them as they absorbed Jessica's plea. "I admit," her mother began, her voice shaky but earnest, "that I've held tightly to these visions of success because I feared losing the stability we've built." "Then let us evolve," Jessica encouraged, a sense of hope filling the air. "It's about progress, even if it's messy. If I want to honor my passion and create my story, maybe it's time we all embrace the uncharted." As the evening unfolded, the tension in the room began to thaw. They spoke of their own dreams and compromises, the sacrifices they made in pursuit of an ideal they feared might distort their family identity. A new understanding surfaced, melding Jessica's pursuit of authenticity with their desire for familial unity. "Jess," her father finally spoke, "we can support your journey, but it's going to take time for us to adjust. We're learning too, and maybe you're right, it's alright to redefine what success means. In that moment, Jessica felt a weight lifted. Her parents were willing to meet her halfway. They were willing to break down old walls of expectation. I promise to be patient while we navigate this journey together, she replied, her heart swelling with appreciation. And I'll share my growth with you. Let us support each other in our individual pursuits. A subtle but powerful transformation coursed through the air, intertwining their desires for connection and individualism. With their vulnerability laid bare, a visible sense of relief swept through Jessica, the realization that confronting the truth had the power to reshape not just her life but their entire family's dynamic. By the end of the evening, they found themselves enveloped in laughter, honesty carving out a space where simultaneously pursuing dreams and family bonds could coexist. Jessica knew this was just the beginning and that there would be challenges ahead, but she felt resolved to carry the torch of authenticity always. The next day at the library, her passion manifested in her work as she approached each new piece with clarity and fulfillment. Jessica had rekindled not only her dreams but also the real essence of her identity, a beautiful interplay of truth, relationship, and resilience. As she prepared for her next exhibition showcasing her artistic journey, Jessica felt a sense of accomplishment. She had carved out her path through adversity, building bridges with her family while laying the foundation for a life that resonated deeply with who she was meant to be. At that moment, she understood that true artistic expression was more than recapturing freedom or confronting fear. It was about redefining connections that mattered most, resilience rising from vulnerability. She stood tall, ready to embrace whatever came next, empowered by the knowledge that confronting challenging truths would lead only to deeper understanding and fulfillment both for herself and her family. This reclamation of identity felt like a fulfillment. Jessica not only achieved artistic success but also the restoration of familial bonds, grounded in love, acceptance, and above all, authenticity. The satisfaction she experienced was palpable, a profound inner peace radiated through her, illuminating the way forward. As she delivered each piece of art starring the journey of her transformation, she envisioned more than just the canvas, she envisioned a life crafted by choices that truly reflected her heart. In that moment, Jessica knew with resolute confidence that she had achieved not just individual triumph, but an evolution, a triumph that would echo through the hearts of those she loved most.